you ever wondered if you knew, or wondered how to know if you know? Have you ever wondered if your inner voice was true, or if it was just a thought that popped in your head? Today we are here with our dear friend Dr. Jersey, who is an author, a holistic practitioner, a chiropractor, a student of the ages, and amongst other things, and a coach, intuitive her entire life, and who channels. And she is here with us today to talk about knowing and share with us the channel on how to implement these things in your life.
Yep.
And thanks for being with us today.
Welcome to our Evolving Podcast.
Glad to be here.
Our Evolving Consciousness. So where we like to talk about raising our vibration, and and I'm Deb Peterson.
I'm Dee Valente.
Dr. Jersey.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
It's always fun.
It is. I think, we look at our lives and say, what do we want? And I think for a lot of folks, they don't know what they want because they don't necessarily trust what's inside them.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot with people.
For sure.
Yeah.
And part of it is what's their learned behavior. If you're raised by a family who didn't believe in any of it, how do you develop the belief system? And yet we walk around life and there's people go, I just know things. And if someone keeps telling them they're wrong, eventually they'll believe it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we trust? So in recent times, I've been channeling for years. I've got literally hundreds, well more than that, of writings that I've done for years. And I'm a little bit stubborn with my guides. The group of guides I work with is called the Council.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've been able to go there and ask questions to some of the great energetic minds of history. Mm-hmm. So I can go back there, and I remember I had Abraham Lincoln at one point he was dictating to me, so to speak, if you will.
Oh, okay.
Or the energy of I remember I asked a question and I met with the energy of Einstein. Or one time I said, "Dear Jesus, what's the answer?" And so I think what I do is simply that I know that I can.
Right. But let's talk about that a little bit more,
okay.
like how you channel. I mean, people channel in different ways.
Sure.
So you are, I know this because you've told me, they wake you up early in the morning, right? And it's kind of like they're telling you, we want to tell you something, right?
Right.
You don't usually go to them? And
when I'm in my discipline phase, I go to the computer every morning at 5:30 or 6.
Okay.
When I'm not necessarily doing my job or being obedient, so to speak, they wake me up. So when I wrote my book called Betrayed, they woke me up at 4:30 in the morning and said, go to the computer and do this right now. So I submitted.
And so you're writing when you're at the computer.
That was typing.
Yeah, you're typing.
Wow.
I'm sorry. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And then this year I had shoulder surgery, so I couldn't type. So a lot of it came in oral.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So I've been taping it or writing it for years. And so they came to me. The most recent thing, which is why I think I'm here, is the series that I've gotten that was almost like pressure to get. I was being awakened at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
One day I did 3 readings. I'm like, oh guys, that's enough. And it just kept coming. And so I believe that we're all connected at some level. The question is, what's our awareness? What do we hold to be true? Mm-hmm. And when I work with people as a coach, whether I'm coaching on the logical of the world or I'm coaching on the intuitive of the world, probably the biggest thing I come up against is people's fixed ideas or limiting beliefs that says, I don't know or I can't see it. And then I look at the people, like I just did with the person in the room, going, I see it. How do you not see it?
Right.
So part of what we do is in the series that came down, very specific instructions, was a series, I don't know if it's 20 or 21, on what to do. It's a how-to. It's like a book.
Okay.
At the end of it said, write the book and start teaching the world and stop, as a chiropractic physician, I did not want to blend the worlds.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I did not. I was very clear cut after practicing over 30 years that when I practice my chiropractic or my homeopathy, I'm not blending. But the truth of the matter is, if we're intuitive, we're always blending.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
You just don't have to advertise that you are. I'm a purist, so to speak. So I blend the worlds always, but I'm able to work with people at a coaching level or at an intuitive level to assist them. My purpose in life is to heal. Mm-hmm. I've had my own challenges just like everyone else, but my purpose is to heal. So
I think that's why you gravitated towards the coaching, right? Because you realized, we've had this conversation, and you said that people would come to you for messages, you would give them profound messages, which I can attest to, and then they would go off and not implement it.
Right.
And is that kind of how you, because what I think is amazing, you then as a coach, teach them how to implement these things.
Well, the coaching philosophy is really simple, is that we believe that within you lies the answers.
Yes.
So
Right.
the intuitive means alignment. So homeopathy, chiropractic, coaching, and intuitive is all about believing that within you lies the answers. So how do we access, how do we chisel out the answers and get through our thick belief system? You know, how do we break through? So what I've learned is exercises, and above all things, discipline, consistency and discipline, which is kind of often hard for us humans. You know, to be predictable and consistent is one of the benchmarks of success in any field, whether you're exercising or meditating or praying, etc. And so becomes, I want to activate inside people where possible their knowing by giving them the exercises that have been given to me. As I've said to you once before, I was blessed to have a mother.
Yes.
We were raised in a house, the teaching of Edgar Cayce, so we were meditating at the age of 7.
Right.
So when we had a vision of a past life or past event, my mother would say, "Tell me more."
Yeah,
Other mothers said that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Right.
Your mother never turned it off. She encouraged it. She supported you guys, and
you have a
it's
whole family
amazing.
A whole family of psychics, intuitives, and clairvoyants.
But most people that we know, that is not the way it is. Right?
Although the world is getting that way
the
now,
world
I
is,
think,
but I would say that our generation, most of the time, it was shut off. We hear stories about kids and all things that that
playing
are
with your
truly
imaginary
gifted
friends.
and it's shut off.
And they're not really imaginary, right? Like,
I was a young kid naming countries that and towns in England that I'd never been at, but I could name them and we could look them up. So, but I was raised again by a mom who allowed this. But it's interesting. So part of what I'm doing with someone comes to me and they go, I know something's true, but I can't confirm it. I have an instinct. Like I can tell not to go down the dark alley, but I can't tell to go up the light the light window.
Right.
Because there's something that stops them. So the coaching model allows us to find out what the blocks are and open up. Now I do regular coach. I was blessed to train with Debbie Ford for years at JFK University, and so the shadow work helps us get in the way, because what stops us from our knowing, in my experience, is our fixed limiting beliefs and fixed ideas. Some of them were implanted, some of them were taught. It's like in a coaching model, I'm going to make this up. Let's say a parent tells a child they're stupid, so they grow up to believe they're stupid. Sad, but it happens, right? So how am I going to break through if they still hold a belief system, even though it's an error, that they're stupid?
Right.
So we find out the coaching, find out the block, address the block, find out, and this is part of what I downloaded about 20 years ago called Original Decision Coaching. If someone holds a belief, I'm using that example, that my mom says I'm stupid and I believe myself stupid, my very survival is based upon agreeing with her. Yeah. So then I activate, really important, my crime against myself, which is what I see in the world, is we hold what the people tell us to be true. The crime is that we agree with them.
Yes.
And that activates law of attraction.
Yeah.
So you activate law of attraction, now things that show up in your life are stupid, or you're stupid. And truthfully, you're not.
Right.
But so part of the coaching model,
shame. Yeah.
It is a shame, but part of the coaching model is go back and find, are there any core beliefs in their way? And if there are, let's work with them and remove them. And some folks don't have that, so we go, okay, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself? Law of attraction works when it's a law of allowing, et cetera, et cetera. It works when we work it, not when we let our mind run amok. One of my pet peeves in the world right now is the abuse of electronics. I just read someplace, allegedly, people touch their phone and look up something 80 times a day.
Wow.
And I don't know if it's true, but I started to count my own, going, well, maybe it's close.
Really?
Right.
Yeah,
well,
right.
What's so important? Instead of going into the quiet mind.
Right.
In my practice, parents walk in with young children, 5 years old, they hand them a screen.
Right.
So it interferes. That all interferes with our knowing.
Right.
So then we set some ideas or rules in there going, okay, how about no screen time the first hour or last hour of the day? How about we find that quiet spot? How about we listen to our inner knowing? And how about we learn to trust it? But if you're not surrounded by a tribe that teaches you how to trust it,
it may not even be on your awareness.
Absolutely.
Well, right.
Absolutely.
You don't even know what's happening.
We believe everybody is in tune.
Of
and
course.
everybody can tune in, and it's just, some skills will help us do it better. But there are a lot of people out there who believe that there are only a select few. And this is not a gift that is for a select few. It is in every one of us as a human being, right? So how do we let them know?
Well, part of it is recognizing that the possibility exists.
Yes.
If you're 5'4" and I tell you to be 5'6" tomorrow, you're not going to believe me. It's an unrealistic jump. But if you tell me you're 5'4", for instance, and you'd like to be stronger at 5'4", first thing is accepting who we are.
Right.
The second thing is opening up the door to possibilities. Like, what do we want?
Right.
So what I downloaded recently was this series, and it really was one of the more intense times. It was a month long. I don't think I slept for the month. It was a month long. And part of it, like the first exercise, I'm a big believer in habits and behavior, and I've certainly done great at some and failed at some. So the first one was alignment. You know, so we call in what's true. So one of the exercises I came to, I've been writing about the pineal gland, which is one of the glands in the back of the brain, and it is said to be, and I've been writing about it for 15 years, and of course as an anatomy professor, I know what it is. I've seen it, you know. Right. But it's said to be the antenna to the other side.
Isn't it also, it's at the base of your...
Right underneath the cerebellum.
Right, and they also say, someone told us recently that that's where your soul enters, right? And that's why you got to protect. And they also say that's why you bow your head in church, so that you can get, the higher vibration
That's one view.
Yeah.
Other people say it enters here. Other people say it enters here.
So what do you
one
think?
view.
Yeah, where do you think it enters?
I think, what I realized is the soul is the connection. The soul is your being, right? So let me back up with this. I work with someone, there's 4 components: mind, body, soul, emotion. We're only as strong as our weakest component. End of conversation, right?
Right.
If you're strong mentally and you're weak physically, you'll have weakness in the mentality of it. So part of it is recognizing 4 components. So here's my biology in me, right? At a biological level, our body says we must survive and procreate and survive. That's our primary directive as an animal, right? We're biology. Yeah. But our spirit, our soul says evolve. Evolve to the next level. Evolve to self-actualization, as Maslow's hierarchy would say. Well, I say there's a higher one. Yes. Evolve to help someone else self-actualize, which is what you folks do.
Right.
So we look at it and go, there's a battle within each one of us about surviving a body and developing a soul. So if someone's starving to death, most people are not going to be doing the meditation.
Right. No, right.
So we have to create a balance, and it's very hard. The battle of the soul, the battle of the mind, the battle of the body is very hard. So finding us in balance, yours is balance your life. Finding us in balance is to make peace and find our strength, strengthen our weak ones, and use our strong ones. Right, so we look at, for me, at a soulful level, we have our 7 chakras. My meditation says there's 10.
Okay. Yeah. No,
okay.
People say there's more. But. Yeah.
So the chakra centers, which is a metaphysical term for high energy. At a biological level, it is a plexus of nerves. So we have the base 7 chakras in the body.
So where's the other 3?
Well, you've got base chakra, toxic. You've got the 2nd chakra is right in the reproductive. The 3rd is power. The 4th is heart.
Right.
5th is throat or communication. 6th is midbrain, third eye, which is pineal and pituitary.
Yeah.
So the pituitary is the master gland of the body. We would say the pineal, which has very biological forces. We would call it the mastermind of the psychic or the intuitive. Then you've got crown and then the 3 additional ones.
And the 3 additional are what?
I see in my meditation 8, 9, and 10. One of them is a protective field around you. Another one is opening to the gates. So a lot of people, we're working on.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the other ones are.
We're working on the 7 of them, which is our body. When we make peace and knowledge and awareness of the 7 and understand what they are, we then start to access the other side. So one of the meditations, and I'm going to jump ahead for a minute. Desire happens. One of my meditations, I could see visualization of red flame with orange sparks. Desire happens at the number 1 chakra. So attunement is aligning all the chakras in the body, and then of course belief and is another component, and alignment, attunement, and connection. So to answer your question, to me, the power chakra, number 3, is a connection point. Is where emotions are held. It's a connection point between spirit emotions and physical emotions.
Okay.
So interesting. Now, as a chiropractic doctor, we take a look and say, how come 95% of the population has back troubles?
Right.
Because we're man the biped standing up, or because that's the chakra point in my mind, my work, from where from the soul and the body heals, and it's a conflict. So people have a profound religion, whatever it is, Catholicism, Judaism, Muslim, it doesn't matter. If they have a profound belief system, I see that they have a different paradigm in their body when I'm working on them. Very different.
What is that?
What's that?
Like the different paradigm.
Different. You see trends. So we know chakras have energy centers. So here's an example. Someone comes in with a throat problem, neck problem.
Yeah.
I know, and I can't seem to get them out of their own into the healing. I know it's a communication issue.
Right.
So we would vary depending on who you read. Right side is will, left side is emotion. So someone comes into me and they say, I keep having these left arm pains. So I work with them. If I can't get them, I'll start to go to the other side of work and say, okay, what in your life are you feeling that you can't communicate? So our body is a message center for the spirit. But I was been blessed to study both of them deeply, be naturally attuned to the channeling and the intuitive, and then be able to study the biology going, we're complicated people. So how do we find peace and attunement is to find out our body is the messenger of what our mind and spirit can't say out loud.
No, I was more trying to ask about when you said you have the people that are religious in whatever religion that you see they carry the same type of...
They have different. A religious person, and I'm not going to go into what I see with, and this is really weird. This is just an observation after practicing.
Yeah, I'm just curious on what that is.
A certain religion has this problem.
Oh, okay.
A certain religion has, there's certain religion beliefs are based on shame, have a lot of shame in their cultures, right? I'll see them with a certain set of problems. So I started to see enough trends.
Interesting.
So that's the physical side of it.
Right.
So many of them became coaching clients because 20 years ago someone came to my office and said, Dr. Jersey helped me, and the staff member said, I'm glad the adjustment helped. And she said, I'm not talking about the adjustment. That's always good. And I went, oh my God, if I'm going to do this, I better get trained. Hence I spent the next 5 years training. Right. So for me, I just started to see patterns. Why does this group of people always have headache? I'm not talking about environmental, because that's obviously a different conversation.
Yes.
But I'm talking about why does this type of family have this issue? Why does this type of family have this issue? Why does this belief system, whether it be religious or other, have these issues?
Well, I think that, but this family and this family, it's based on their belief system that has.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. It's all based on the belief systems.
Of course, certain religions evoke, or certain trends, religions, and cultures evoke shame. It's a very different set of physical patterns and problems. So this is where chiropractic, and Edgar Casey talk about it all the time. Chiropractic and manipulative therapy opens up chakras. And opens up energies. Now I have homeopathy, chiropractic. Now icing on the cake is we have the coaching model. Let's take a look at what birthed that belief system.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens is sometimes the belief system is birthed from a different time. Right. So when I'm coaching people, they come to me and I'm going to coach them. This is sort of breaking the rules, right? They come to me and they want to get help with their job, their organization, their relationship, whatever. And sometimes the client will come to me and said, I'll ask a series of questions. Right? Because the idea is they know. I believe they know. My job is just to ask the right question. And once in a while I'll throw my 2 cents in. But
not you.
No, when you're coaching, no. So they'll ask the belief system and they'll say, I don't know where it comes from, but I've had clients say to me, and this is kind of odd but interesting for me. And of course at a channel level I can see it, but I can't tell them because they're not ready.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll say, well, it was 1840 and I see a burial and I tell the whole thing. I said, okay. And then they'll say, I don't believe it. It's not me. I said, okay, let's just look at that as a profound message from the other side. Let's work with it. Yeah. So whether they believe it to be their past life or it's just a message from the unseen, we'll work with it.
Right.
Okay.
Now, the model was, oh, you're crazy. You use the word invisible friends. Well, okay, you see an invisible friend. I saw a black cat, you saw a green one. We're both right. Well, what are we going to do with it? And how does it affect us? Right. So part of the channeling for the last 2 months was this ability. I said, all right, dear, my group of beings is called the council. And when I was doing the counseling, when I was doing this, I would go into the chamber of the hall of wisdom. I'd go into the hall of knowledge. I'd go into, and I would get a whole, like I was talking to a whole bunch of different people. It was part of me was a little shocked by it. Right. Because it was so intense, but it was so crystal clear. So the first thing we look at someone is let's get them aligned. Right. Let's get them aligned with with their divinity. So for some people, they think the word divinity is not a good word. Okay. So then first thing I do is ask them, what do you believe the word divinity is? Can you make, when I'm teaching anatomy, can you make the mighty oak grow? Can you breathe life into the little bird or fish? Well, no. Well, there's something out there bigger than you. I call it divinity. I call it God. What do you call it? Right. Mother Nature, energy, chi, we'll call it a name, but it's not, and are we connected? So I think part of it is getting someone to be aware that they are indeed connected, even though they think they're not.
Hi, Deb and I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you for joining us. We hope that you're appreciating all of the guests that we're bringing you. And we wanted to ask you to please remember to subscribe below and like us so we can continue to bring more guests and take a deeper dive.
And send us comments if you have any feedback. We would love to hear from you.
Right.
Right. So that's the first step.
That's creating that awareness and,
Yep.
and opening people up to the fact that
The possibilities.
and that's step one. Absolutely.
Which is what you guys do.
So we hope so.
Yeah, we try.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, part of it is
Yeah.
calling it in. So you had asked, the first exercise I got when I was doing this is putting your tongue on the roof of the mouth and 3 deep breaths in. And when you breathe in, you push on the roof of the mouth, which activates pineal gland.
Yes.
Oh.
It's funny. I was just doing work with my daughter
Nice.
because we're trying to repattern some brain waves in
Got it.
the processing in her body, and that was one of the first exercises that we were doing.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and it was for the pineal gland.
I would add that, and Edgar Casey talked about this in the 40s, the sacred sound of humanity is Om.
Right.
So what he did in his training was, they used a vibrationary sound called, and I'll use it if I may, Are Om. And when you do that, you can feel the vibration.
Right.
The breathing, and
Oh, you know what? Explain the breathing because I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Just so we can so everybody knows.
okay, step 1 is the breathing. So you wake up, and I do this right upon awakening.
Okay.
So I take 3 deep breaths, and in the deep breath, I push my tongue on the roof of my mouth, and I breathe in and blow out, keeping the pressure on my tongue on the inhale. Breathe in and blow out, and breathe in, last time, and blow out. And then I use the language, I'm aligned with the divine is aligned with me.
Yes. You taught me that.
I am aligned with the divine is aligned with me. So remember, the number 3 is one of the sacred numbers, right? That's one of the. It's a prime number in math, but it's a sacred number in sacred geometry. So I would start the morning with that. And I said, listen, you don't need to believe it. You don't need to believe that doing a biceps curl is going to fix your biceps either, but do it anyway and see what happens.
Right.
So to work with people now, I have them do that. And even whether they believe or not doesn't matter, but everyone that does that you worked with to do that, feels peaceful for a moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. When we can get the chatter out of our brain and we can go to the centered knowingness, and even if we don't call that energy God or divine, we are connected to something.
That's right.
Right.
And I think that we should just make it clear that what alignment means, right? And that's what that means, is to connect to your source, to your God, to get quiet, to connect from within, right? So just why is alignment important? What's happening when we align? So,
Right. Everything falls into place. Everything's
and
easy. It's effortless, so to
we
speak.
allow. So just because
synchronicities happen.
They channel to teach, for you to teach alignment. I just wanted to let everyone know that what does it mean to be aligned?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. The power of that, what I learned in the lesson, was do that exercise for 21 days. And after that, all you need to do is say alignment.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
I've been doing it for longer than that. But since you told me, so interesting.
Well, you can keep doing the exercise. It's not bad. But there's moments where, let's say that I'm in a situation and I'm a little uncomfortable. I can close my eyes for a split second and say alignment, and boom, it's back.
Right.
You talk about changing DNA. Once we get the practice in our cellular, we know cells. We know what cellular memory is, right? We know what that is.
Yeah.
But there's also soul memory, and there's also DNA memory, and there's also physical memory, right? And there's mind memory. So once we do it what was taught to me recently, once we do it for 21 days, the word alignment will do it. I would continue to do it. So that's what I learned.
So just in the middle of the day, if it's
I go alignment. There it is. Boom.
Love it.
Woo, cool.
Boom.
Yeah, I like that.
At a neurological level, allegedly, it takes 21 to 30 days to change a neurological pattern and build neuroplasticity. So that's what I started doing. And by the way, I practiced on myself before I
that's great.
give it out to other people. Absolutely. So that was like the first of I think it's 21 steps. I can't remember the exact number. I think that was the first one, is get alignment. And I think that's where a lot of folks struggle. If you have a profound religious background, it may help you or may hurt you in your struggle.
Right.
Like, again, I'm blessed to have the mother I had. My mother never did guilt, ever. And so, as a side note, I was in Catholic grammar school, which due to the schooling we were at the time, and we were there. And I remember Mom taught us about reincarnation, so I went to go talk to the nuns about reincarnation. Well, it didn't go well for me.
No.
And her response is they don't know everything. They know what they know.
That's right.
Right.
And the great lesson to myself and my 5 siblings was, my job is to expose you to everything, and your job is to choose your fate, your truth. So I was, why not look?
Right.
So alignment, and I would challenge anyone who to do this. It's a 1 minute in the morning?
Not even. Yeah.
30 seconds?
1 minute. Yeah. 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
It does feels like it's pretty fast. Depends on how quickly you do your breath. So that's it.
And also deep breathing in the morning, or like drinking a lot of water, is a cleansing action.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have a better oxygen carbon dioxide change, et cetera, dioxide change in the lungs, so it's refreshing. So that would be the first step of when I did this, and I'm going to call it, I just got it. This series I was in, I'm going to call it the intensive.
Okay.
I just made that up.
Yeah.
So
it is.
It was very clear. So that was the step one.
So I just want to ask you though, just more like the logistic things, because you talked to the council, then you talked about going to the what of wisdom. Well,
in the council, for what I see visually, because I'm visual clairvoyant, so an audio clairvoyant. So what I see is I can go and I can go into different rooms or chambers, and I believe that is.
We hear about this from people that a lot of.
I believe it's set up for those of us who it just is a picture. I'm not saying that's the truth. Mm-hmm. That's my system.
Right. That's what works for you.
Right. Yeah, that's what works for me, because
that's how it's given to you, because that's how you'll receive it.
Right, and
well done.
And I think I even asked you, right? Like,
and you are the eternal student. I mean,
so there you go.
You love the love the learning and the books. So
I'm always seeking. I seek to understand. So the default mechanism in my family is our default is study. Right. Our default is study. So that's what we do. So I'll study what's out there, and then I'll access. Or they'll tell me what to study, because not everything you read is absolutely true, and it's not necessarily true for me. But I get to evaluate. I love when I come across subjects, because truth doesn't change. I love when you come across subjects where it's the same in all the subjects.
You know what's really interesting?
What's up?
I would say the past couple of years for me, I too am always seeking information. So I want to learn about everything. But I found that I like to watch a documentary, a film, an interview, nowadays a podcast.
Sure.
Because there is something about watching someone that I see their energy and I see their emotion, right? And their reaction, and when I hear their words, I know the truth. And that learning for me, because it's available now, is something that I love. So I can be consumed in watching interviews and bios. I lose hours and hours on it, but I've taken a deeper dive into civilization and origins and religions on that. But this is a way that works for me. And as you're saying it, I'm like, I can see it, because she's got the books, and that's why the whole records and the whole books is
I think I asked like, I asked you about the Akashic records and if you could read them, and you said sometimes in a session,
right?
Because isn't that you're going up to some hall and have the
well, it depends on what you read. The Akashic, the Akashic records to me are your soul's timeline.
Yes. Right.
So if at some point,
where is that, the Hall of Knowledge or something, right? Is it where it's
for everyone, as she just said, for everyone they'll access it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone's allowed to look at Akashic records.
Okay, right.
Part of it is
why that is.
Because the being that you're looking into them for is not ready to see it, or they don't hold it.
Okay.
So if you're adamant that you have one life and there's no prior life, and I work on you and I go, listen, I see you in 1482. Yeah. Circuit's blown.
You're not going to listen.
Right.
So we need to speak to people. We just speak to people in their language.
Sure, where they're at.
Where they're at. We need to meet them where they're at. So just because I saw a big aha moment doesn't mean they want to see or are ready to see the aha moment. And by the way, for any psychic or medium that reads, what we do or intuitive, what we see now in this moment doesn't mean it's gospel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's cement.
That's correct.
And so one of the things I love about the psychics and intuitives is, most of them will not give a negative reading.
Right.
They won't say, because they don't want to put in someone's line, you're going to be in a car crash. You don't want to put that. You might say, be cautioned in the car. It's very, very different. Because that's the caution. Because when you're in that almost trance state, the vulnerability level for the recipient is huge.
Yes.
Is huge. And there needs to be trust, and there needs to be faith, and there needs to be their truth. They need to know. They need to know that it's true for them. I mean, you go to places that they're psychic and intuitives and they're reading, and maybe some of them are really good, and some of them are tricksters, and some of them are really valid. I mean, there's a blend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'd like to have good ones.
Sure.
Right.
But sure.
Right. But yeah.
And sometimes intrusive. Intrusive it backfires, as you said. Somebody may think they want to hear something, but it's not when they want to hear what they want to hear.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
it takes a lot of discernment on that.
Yes, it does.
I think one of the most important thing with when someone comes to me as a coach, for me as a coach, one of the first things I do is ask permission. Are you ready, able, and willing to see what I see? And will you consider that? Will you consider it? I'm not telling them I'm giving them the truth. I'm only telling them what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
And they have to decide.
And most of them say yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that's good.
More often than not,
yeah.
If someone comes to me and I'm not in that phase, they'll ask me. I've had people walk up to me in the street, would you give me a reading? No, I'm not going to give you a reading. Who are you?
Are you serious?
Serious.
On the street?
Well, people who know, people
know?
who read, people who know,
okay.
no.
Okay.
People who know. Or say,
Right.
But of course, my belief system, funny story, I was 40 years old when I was in a room and someone was doing a reading. So I started channeling with an Irish brogue.
Yeah.
I have a huge roots in Ireland. And an interesting moment, some family members were there. They were stunned, thought I was faking. And the channel said, no, that's really her. And I looked at him and said, doesn't that happen to you guys? Well, no, it doesn't happen to me. Well, why not? I think
right.
I think it happens to everybody, but I think maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, but it doesn't. But maybe I mean, on that note, do you want to do a little channeling of a universal thing, or because I know you don't feel.
Well, I find that channel. Yeah, I mean, messaging is fine. Messaging is fine. I think when you channel for someone, I find it to be. I would never want someone to channel for me and put it on a broadcast.
Right.
But a general message?
Yeah, like
sure.
a general whatever, how things are going, where we're going, things like that. Whatever.
Well, part of my operating premise is always to their own self be true. And I would tell everyone I work with, nothing is true unless it's true to you, including what I say.
Okay, right.
So does someone have the discernment to find out what you just said, Dina, to find out what's true for them? Because if they don't, I caution anyone to give them a message.
Right.
Because then they're blindly accepting a message, and that's not cool.
Right. It just kind of depends on what they do with it.
Yeah. So, I think did you want me to finish the connection one?
Sure.
Because the first one was, and I'll do that in a minute. The first one was alignment. The second was connection, which was important because so many people are not connected to their body. One of the things I see with a lot of psychic intuitives, like my sister loves the town of Lilydale, New York, which is
the mediums.
Well, the mediums are there,
and
I've spoken to many of them when I was visiting there, and they struggle to connect with their body.
Yeah,
not all.
Right. We see that a lot.
Yes,
we know.
So part of it is how do you live here on planet Earth while you're spending your time in outer space?
Right.
And they can't.
Well, you're very good at that. I mean, you're really because you're extremely grounded and at the same.
Well, I'm a bridge.
That is
I'm a bridge. Physical.
Yes, which is
chiropractic
great.
is physical.
Yeah.
Very physical, and then intuitive work is very non-physical. So I get to be that bridge. But I think that was one of my gifts. I don't know that I did anything to have that happen. I think that was one of the gifts I came in with.
That's cool.
So the connected exercise is I use the solar plexus, is to be able to see colors swirling around and use the colors of the rainbow. I saw blue and pink when I was doing it, and I saw the white sort of what is it, like funnel of energy going to the divinity, and I saw the colors going to the center of Mother Earth. And I would just say that I'm connected. Because it's very hard for a lot of people to live in the duality that humans live in. It's not, humanity isn't always easy. Right.
Well, we talk about being grounded all the time in little simple exercises like that.
Right.
Like we try to, give tips to people and say, this is what we do, this is what works for us, and it doesn't take long, just like your breathing.
It takes intention, but also part of it is they need to be, my opinion, they need to be grounded before they go do the intuitive work. And I think that's one of the errors. If you're not grounded, I remember I was getting a reading by someone once, and I haven't had that many readings, and my circuits were blown for the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Opened too many gates.
Yeah.
Opened too many gates, and he was a particularly successful, and I think I've only had a handful of psychic readings in my life, which is why I'm cautious on the word. But he opened too many gates. So I looked at it and said, I didn't give the awareness or the permission to do that.
Right.
So that's my caution. So when I'm working with someone on an intuitive level, I'll go, what is it you're looking for? What questions can I ask? What questions can I assist you with? I don't need them to go and tell me, I went out to Cloud 9 and I found, the product Y that's going to cure your blank.
Right.
But I've done that, but more so there's an awareness of there's a steps to create balance. So if that answers your question. So I find that humans, on one hand, this is allegedly, perhaps other than Atlantis, if you hold that to be true, the most advanced humans have been.
I agree. I agree. This is the most advanced we've been. I agree that duality is uniquely human because we are one of the only races that has the ability to make free will and have, God gave us that free will here, right?
Yeah.
So, and because we are soul and we are corporeal, right? So having the soul is an extension of divinity, an extension of God, and there's a duality there. The corporeal that can be physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's not. It seems like you're born and live your life, and it's a natural event to live. But what I'm seeing now, especially in the last 10 or 20 years, profound seeking and approval. So when my mother was doing the Edgar Cayce meetings, her family called her a witch. Her family called her, all that, and she said, "But this is my truth."
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was always willing. This is what I always tell people: just be willing to look at the other side, go to your quiet mind, and see if there's any value for you. And there may or may not be, or there may be a little bit. You may have an essence or a moment of truth going. This something like you just said, Dina. This feels right, and now I'm going to go explore it. But again, even when I'm treating chiropractic patients, I want to give them tools and things that they can help themselves. So my orientation, whether I'm intuitive or a coach or doing a reading or doing chiropractic, if I do my job really well, they will never need me again. They may want to come for a tune-up.
Right.
They want to come for a tune-up or whatever, because I have my coaches that I go to.
Right.
I have my chiropractors, my acupuncture, but they'll never need me again, because if I do my job, I always say as a parent, one of my favorite subjects to coach on is parenting coaching, because they're struggling so much. If I do my job right, my children will grow up and leave me.
Yeah.
If I do it really right, they'll visit.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my philosophy
That's
my philosophy about wellness too. If you do
That's
really
true.
right.
Now,
there's certain conditions that need continuous help, of course, but so I think that at an orientation level, doing the work I'm doing, as you said, coming out of awareness, because I was so cautious not to blend the worlds, but more and more and more, it's, quote, safer. I always felt safe doing my thing because I was raised in a family we all did it.
Right.
I'm very Irish, and in the Irish culture, we'd call it the Fae.
Nice.
Okay.
Which is, there's lots of that in my family. So I'm not the exception. I'm not unusual.
Right.
But we were told we were okay. Right. So, questions, and I'll see what I find here. Anything?
Okay.
Go ahead. You ask one.
Well,
because because our time's almost up. So we
can go a little bit longer, but a few minutes to allow channeling.
Yeah.
All right. So, what questions do we want to ask?
I don't know. I'm saying you have more going on to ask.
No, well, let's just for in general.
Anybody questions in our room here? What?
No, I just, what you were saying about what the kids see and you don't discount it. Anthony, when he was young, my other son came out and he said, he called him bro. He goes, bro's talking to somebody, Ma.
Okay.
I said, okay. So I went in and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm talking to my angel.
Okay.
Oh,
nice.
I said, okay. I said, do you know who it is? And he goes, no, but he looks just like Dad.
Ooh, that's
And
interesting.
I said, okay. I said, that's Grandpa.
Okay.
That's
father.
yes.
I said, that's Grandpa. Daddy's daddy. He says, oh, yeah, now I know. And I said, okay. And I said, well, you're never afraid of him. I said, you talk to him, and he goes, oh, yeah, he told me he's here to protect us and anytime.
Oh, that's great.
Seeing him as I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Never discount it.
I had a lot of that with my
I
kids
agree
too.
with
Same
that.
things. Yeah, and that's what's great. And I think we do that more with our kids than say your mom's age or generation.
Unheard of.
Very right. very rare. But we're a little better with, I know. I remember one of my sons got mad at me because he's like, what do you mean you don't see the big angel standing there behind me?
I love that.
What's the matter with you, Mom? And I'm like, no, I totally believe the big angel's standing there, but I can't see it with my eyes, but I know it's there if you see it.
But I think at an intuitive level, I think children are all born with that ability.
Well, they are,
and
right.
I think
and when they're very young, they come up with some good things.
Well, they see what they see, and then unfortunately, sometimes society or their family tells them they're wrong.
Right.
Right.
You're
young and you're making it up or you're lying. So I think part of it is trusting, back to the trust part. If we can just trust our knowing and get all the noise away. If we can align mind, body, soul, emotion, do the connection, do the grounding, do the other steps that I have, whatever, everyone finds their own way. And we can quiet our mind to know. We can visit the other side. We can get messages from the other side. Most people do. The question is, how do we quiet our minds long enough to hear the whispers from the unseen?
Yeah, right.
You're not going to find the unseen in a computer. You're not going to find it in a movie theater in front of the TV, although those are other ways. So we look at ourselves and said, what are we looking to do? Can we quiet our mind and go, I seek an answer? One of the things I work with if I'm doing coaching is I'll do messenger coaching, which they'll visualize their special place and they'll see a messenger come in, and the messenger will come from their guides, not from me.
Right.
So what is that? What's the gift or the present? What does it represent? And you always know there's a knowingness when there's a high emotional response. There's a knowingness that you're on target for you, as long as no one is in your ear telling you you're wrong. And so how do you trust your gut? It's not. A little baby's going to walk up and pet a tarantula.
Right.
Or they're going to pet a tiger.
Right.
The only two natural fears humans are born with is fear of falling and fear of loud noise. Everything else is learned. So they learn it from their parents, they learn it from whatever, so.
Right, okay. So we're going to have Jersey back.
We will,
too.
absolutely.
And then we're going to have her
fine.
do some mediumship channel, whatever she wants to do. Give us messages. And we'll make that more of a, because it was great to have you on today, and we're looking forward to the series rolling out.
I have to, figuring out right now, since it's relatively new in the last 60 days, figuring out how to do it. So
excellent.
I'm there.
So we're going to have you back very soon to talk
We're
about that.
excited to hear
Thanks for
what you figure
being
out
with
with
us.
that.
And we'll see you next time.